Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the fantasy football counselor. Got Tom Santanello here on live with me, and we're going to be talking about NFL Draft 2020, full recap, and of course the fantasy impact. We're going to go through every single team, talk about the relevance of fantasy and the players they drafted, and Tom's going to give us some feedback on how the team actually did in reality. Tom, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
I'm excited, man. Team by team. You ready to roll or what?
Yeah, it was a long weekend.
It was a long weekend. We got to see how these teams did. And again, if you guys don't know who Tom is, again, fully immersed in pro football, studies it, knows it really well. So he's going to give us more of a realistic point of view, whereas I'm going to give you the fantasy spin. So let's talk about the first team here, the Arizona Cardinals. Tom, I mean, a lot of people saying Isaiah Simmons is steal at 1-8. Do you want to start off with that? How'd the team do? And then I'm going to talk about Benjamin, 7th round pick at running back, who could be fantasy relevant. So what do you think of this draft for the Cardinals?
I mean, it was a good pick. I don't know if it was a steal. That's where he was supposed to go, somewhere between like 6 and 10, 6 and 12. Those kind of guys don't make as much of an impact as an interior D lineman or a shutdown corner. But it was a good pick. They're trying to get tougher. I mean, I think they have some confidence in their offense. I personally think they need another really weapon on that team in order to compete. I don't think they can compete in the NFC West, but I think they're a little cocky with Kingsbury's offense. I think they're going to be better than they are on offense. They traded their 2nd round pick really for DeAndre Hopkins. They got rid of David Johnson, as you know, and right. They got Kenyon Drake on a 1-year deal. In the 7th round, they picked Benjamin, who has a really good chance to make that team going into the season. He had a really good sophomore season going into his junior year last year. He left early as a junior. He didn't really have as good of a year last year. So he was supposed to be, a top couple round pick going into the draft, preseason before right. The college season started. I don't know what happened, why he didn't play as well. He didn't run that fast in about a 4.57, maybe 40. But he's a guy who can come in and I think make an impact in the 7th round. If he makes the team. I don't know why he didn't have as good of a senior year, but he's a guy who his junior year, because he came out early, but his sophomore year was phenomenal in college. So he's a guy who many think, can come in and make a contribution day one, because Kenyon Drake's not an every down back.
No, and that's the thing. Years to Wami, I wasn't around with Kenyon Drake. I did watch the tape on Benjamin. Again, tape highlights, you can't really fully trust it because, again, it's highlights. But, I mean, he's got this amazing spin move, nose for the end zone. I mean, is there any chance? I mean, anything can happen because I don't trust the integrity of the coaching staff here with Arizona. Is there any chance that he could steal a job from Drake? I'm going to say yes. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, with rookies, it's usually later in the season or if there's an injury in preseason. Drake's going to get the ball out of the backfield a lot in the air. Right. Eventually, yeah. I mean, he's an every down back. I mean, He has what it takes to play in the NFL. Like I said, I don't know why his yards per carry went down last year. Maybe it was a worse O-line at Arizona State. But like I said, his sophomore year, I think he had 1,400 yards rushing, over 5 yards carried, a really good year. Supposed to be a top round pick coming into the season. But, maybe he battled some injuries. You don't know what goes on there. And he slipped far in the draft. But running back's the one position out of, any other position in fantasy where a guy can come in and make an impact as a rookie. And a lot of teams will do that because, when we get to the Packers, we'll talk about A.J. Dillon. But you start to see a running back come in, make an impact. They want to use him for that first contract. They don't get a second contract. They're the one position really that makes more of an impact than any other position. You just have to have a good fit. And as the offense progresses in the evolution of the NFL offense, more teams are using multiple running backs, which sucks in fantasy.
Yeah,
it's not like it used to be, but it is what it is.
All right, let's move on here. Benjamin, I'm going to be keeping him on my radar, but again, I don't trust Kingsbury in that offense for fantasy.
You have to monitor the preseason, I would say, and if he starts to get some touches, you take him as a late sleeper pick.
That's it. What's some?
But he could be one of those guys that gets cut and never plays football. I mean, if maybe his sophomore year in college was just, a 1-year wonder. So you just don't know. You got to monitor him. He's one guy I'd keep to monitor in the preseason.
For sure. All right, this one we can rip through really quickly because there was no offensive players taken here. The Atlanta Falcons. What do you think of their draft? I mean, A.J. Terrell.
I think they just went with what they needed to shore up the defense. They got some bodies. It's not that impressive, but they're. I don't know. I mean, I think they're banking on what they have in Todd Gurley. They're banking on Todd Gurley returning to his form. I think Calvin Ridley, I think he can. The problem is how many targets he gets. I think Calvin Ridley's in line for a big season. He finished the season off really good last year.
Right.
I just never bought into their offensive coordinator, and I just think some of the coaching and the system's the problem. When Shanahan was there, they were doing really, really good. But I think it's time for, they really have to have Calvin Ridley step up, and they're banking on him to hit a home run. They got rid of Sanu halfway through last year, but their draft is more like, get a couple defensive players. So, but they're banking on Gurley and Ridley having a breakout year.
All right, yeah, I can see that. I think Gurley bounces back. That's my opinion with him, and I think a lot of people will be sleeping on him. So, yeah, I think they're going for broke, really. I think they've got all the tools. They're going for broke here. They want to win a Super Bowl.
Well, their coaches are on the hot seat. The coach is on the hot seat right now, entering the season.
That's it.
So,
all right, Ravens here. Let's move on here. Jakey Dobbins, what a waste for fantasy. This is a real upset here. I want to talk about two players primarily here. Devin, wide receiver, and Jakey Dobbins. With Dobbins here, I mean, Lamar Jackson was 6th in rushing attempts amongst running backs. Yes, you heard it. 6th in rushing attempts, I believe, amongst running backs. He beat pretty much every running back in rushing. Rushing yards. He was 6th in rushing yards, I believe, amongst running backs. So, again, he's a running back on his own. You got Ingram there. And now Dobbins, I'm not sold for fan. I don't think Dobbins is going to get the production. What are your thoughts?
Well, first off, with their first pick, I think they got who they wanted. They needed to beef up their defense, which is what they rely on first. Secondly, I think with J.K. Dobbins, they took the best. They think they're right there competing with KC. I disagree, because if you watch the playoff game, I feel like they can't come from behind. They don't have the firepower to come from behind. And if you keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, he doesn't have enough weapons. He just doesn't. No. I think J.K. Dobbins is a good pick in a sense, because Mark Ingram is on the back nine of his career, as you may say, and he battled some injuries late last year, and that hurt them because he played really, really good. But when he gets hurt, they lacked the running game, and it really hurt them. And like I went back to say, I think he'll fit that team well, and I think maybe not this year, but next year when they get rid of Ingram, he'll be the number one back there for a few years, and he will be a good player there. But I really – Devin Duvernay from Texas, his first 3 years in college were whatever, a few hundred yards here and there, maybe 500 junior year. Senior year, he burst onto the scene, played really well. I really think Lamar needs a go-to guy, a big target, and I don't think they got that. And I feel like they're still a top team. I don't know if as far as an impact from day one, I think you have to monitor, I guess, the injuries, but Marquise Brown from last year, good player, is not a reliable week in, week out threat, injury prone as well. I think they really need a reliable target, and I think they need more weapons. Like I said, did you watch the game against Tennessee? If they fall behind, I don't think they can come back. And Lamar Jackson, but do you really want him running the ball? That's how you get hurt.
I don't want him running that much this year, and that's a big concern to me, especially for fantasy, because everyone's going to be drafting Lamar Jackson in this first or second round. I'm like, no, don't do that, especially this guy is putting himself out there. Too much risk.
Yeah, I wish they got it's just you only have a few picks in the first couple rounds, but they had 3 third-round picks. They just like to get good football players, and it's a really good draft. I just still think they need another weapon somewhere out there to complete the team. But J.K. Dobbins, I don't know if he's going to make an impact year one, depending on he's not going to get enough carries for sure. But remember a couple years ago in New Orleans when Ingram had Kamara, he came in and stole the show. J.K. Dobbins is not a big receiving threat out of the backfield. He's more of a pound him type of guy. So they kind of play the same kind of game, because Ingram can catch the ball. Don't get me wrong. He's a little underrated in that, but that's not his forte. So I don't know. Maybe the problem for you is he may come in and steal the touchdowns at the end to give Ingram a breather. Listen,
I'm staying away. Stay away from J.K. Dobbins, guys. That's it. Stay away from Dobbins and Lamar. Everything fantasy for Ravens is out for me. Just the way that it's sitting right now, I'm staying away. Good insight, though, Tom. Let's move on to Buffalo Bills. And I was really high on Devin Singletary. I'm like, Devin Singletary is going to be a 3-down workhorse running back. There's a chance, because there was some talk about him possibly being that. But I had it in the back of my mind. I knew they might draft someone else. And sure enough, Zach Boss comes in. And that's it. I'm not drafting Devin Singletary. I'm staying away from this.
I told you about Zack Morris before the draft. I said, watch where he goes, because I think he's one of the top running backs and come in and make an impact somewhere. It's funny. Singletary, when he came out last year, came out as a junior, but his sophomore year was way better. A lot of these running backs have really good sophomore years, But then, you know, some teams, they might play 8 guys in the box, 10 guys up. Like when you have a good running back, especially in a small conference, you're going to target them. And that's some of the reason why these guys' production could fall. And he fell in the draft to like the 3rd or 4th round. Now, when you're talking Zack Morris, he was one of the top running backs coming in as well,
right,
into the senior season, just like Eno Benjamin. But he, you know, he's not great in any area, but he's a really good running back. Those type of guys, like remember back in the day, Curtis Martin, who wasn't a blazer, wasn't a guy that is going to take 80 yards to the house, but a guy that can move the chains. And I think that's what he is. I think he's going to be really good there. It just sucks because I think Singletary, it's going to be his job first. I mean, for a running back to really perform, you need 20 carries a game.
Yeah, and it's going to be a split here.
Yeah, and I think they're going to give Singletary the job at first, but Buffalo's the type of team where they don't have any consistent weapons. Right. They got Stephon Diggs. Gabriel Davis in the 4th round is a guy to watch. I think he's going to come in and make plays as a rookie. He's a good player. Came out as an underclassman, I think, at USF, University of South Florida.
Right.
But any other year, he probably would have been a 2nd-round pick. He's a good player. He's got good size. He's a good player.
At wide receiver, you don't know who's going to get the ball. You think Diggs is going to get it, but Allen's already come out and said that he's got the rapport with Beasley and Brown. So I'm not liking the situation at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I like the situation for Josh Allen. But again, what a buzzkill. As soon as I saw Zack Moss, I was just like, oh, man, there goes.
But you know, these teams are drafted for depth. You know, they want depth. Because if Singletary gets hurt, they got a guy who can step in, or I mean, it's running backs. These guys want young running backs. They don't sign free agents. I mean, there's still guys out there, like remember, or even guys that sign Lamar Miller, the Carlos Hydes. You know, you play a rookie deal and you're done. They don't want you much anymore. Maybe you get a second deal for a little bit.
Fantasy football draft strategy, but when you have a situation where Moss is technically almost as good as Singletary, where you don't have a guy that's a clear cut, much better than this guy, those are situations I like to stay away from. So like Zeke and Pollard. Zeke is far superior running back to Pollard, you could say.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to draft Zeke, for example, right? Or same type of thing with Saquon Barkley and Dion Lewis. I mean, come on. Saquon's going to eat. So I don't feel a threat there. But when you have Zack Moss and Singletary, I stay away from that.
But the other thing you watch is the 3rd down backs. I mean, which we'll get to later. But like Brady, he used that for years in New England with Kevin Falk, James White, Dion Lewis. Those guys just come in on 3rd down, steal the touchdowns. They get the ball in the backfield.
Yeah,
that's
I hate
another
that
thing.
Burkhead.
But teams,
example of that.
Yeah,
you know, Patriots. I hate those guys for fantasy, like the Rex Burkhead, the James White, Sony Michel. Like, just pick a running back and stick with it, for God's sakes. All right, let's move through a little quicker here. Carolina Panthers, all defense. Not really much to talk about here, right? I mean,
they got some good defensive players. I mean, good projected defensive players. Derek Brown's a beast. I still think I don't know. I mean, it's all defense. I don't know how good it is. They got the guy Kenny Robinson. I think he was in the XFL for 5 games he played there. They got good players, but I think they're still. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's just trying to take over that team. Matt Rule. He's had some NFL experience, and he's trying to get faster on defense and kind of like he's got Bridgewater there. He's going to use McCaffrey. He's got, a couple receivers, but I don't think they're ready to compete. I think they're a year away.
Yeah, I mean, one quick question from a realistic standpoint. Does Bridgewater help Christian McCaffrey? Will he throw the ball to him, short passes? Do you see that happening?
I mean, they just paid McCaffrey a ton of money. I don't know. I mean, they got that offensive coordinator from LSU who slings the ball, so I think they're going to spread the ball out. I think they're going to, but he's no slouch. I think he's going to use McCaffrey as the weapon. They just paid him a shitload of money,
right? So
I really think they need another team that needs another weapon, a real weapon. But I mean, they have a McCaffrey, but I'm talking about on the outside, someone to complement. What's his name? DJ Moore. I think they signed someone in free agency. They signed Robbie Anderson. So I think he's going to use McCaffrey a lot. That's his best player. You have to use your best player.
But you only got one weapon. You got to throw the ball more. They're not throwing the ball enough to.
Well, I think they're going to use McCaffrey, set up the play action, try to get Robbie Anderson some deep plays. He went deep a lot at LSU when he was the offensive coordinator. But we're going to see Bridgewater hasn't had a full season in a long time. So let's not forget that. He hasn't had and he wasn't too sharp last year in New Orleans. He didn't throw up a ton of fantasy points, right?
Right.
I mean,
he looked okay in those games with the Saints.
He won some games, but he was ugly. Some of them were ugly.
Right. So I don't know. He just comes in, gets a starting job. It's going to be interesting. He hasn't had the starting job for years, right? Since 2014.
Yeah, with Minnesota with a devastating knee injury. So I mean, right now for me, that whole team's a pass. Besides McCaffrey, just because he's going to get the ball and put up points just out of the pure touches alone.
Volume. Yeah, a lot of people in the mainstream are high on DJ Moore, but I'm not really sold there at all.
I mean, he's progressed every year, so he's due to have another good year. I mean, you need someone to catch the ball. So.
Someone's got to, yeah. Exactly. All right, the Bears didn't really address the O-line until the 7th round, I believe, right? Arlington Hambright, and they got Simmons, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really count 7th-round picks that much.
No, that's the thing.
There's a couple here that you can, but
why would you address the O-line though right away? I mean, they lost a tight end to need a tight end, but I mean,
they lost Trey Burton, which Trey Burton was in Philly in the Super Bowl. A lot of guys he got paid off a Super Bowl run. That's what he did. I thought he was pretty good though, but they never used him right in Chicago. But I think the problem starts with the play calling and the quarterback in Chicago.
Right.
So that's the problem in Chicago. They still, I don't know. They didn't do anything for me. Jalen Johnson, the cornerback in the 2nd round, is good. I mean, they have a really good defense, but I would have rather seen him go. They didn't have a 1st-round pick from that Khalil Mack trade, so. Right. At least they got some type of weapon. That's what I can say. And in Chicago, they have Nick Foles, right? He threw the tight end a lot in Philly, so I'd keep an eye on that if he wins the job.
All right. So, I mean, do you think immediate impact from Cole at tight end?
I think he can, because if Foles gets the job, I mean, he throws that West Coast offense. I think he'll involve the tight end. Yeah, I think he can.
All right, let's move on to the Bengals here. Joe Burrow, when do you think he gets the start? Do you think it's not going to be game 1? I'm going to guess.
I think game 1. I mean, really? I think so. Why not? He's better though. I mean, I think so. Why wouldn't you? What are you going to do? Try to Andy Dalton? There'll be there might be a riot in Cincinnati if that happens. I don't think you can sit Joe Burrow. I mean, I think honestly, you fire everybody if he doesn't start. Right. Unless he looks like shit, absolute shit. But why would you do that? I mean, just give him the keys and go. I mean, sometimes it benefits to take even Brady, Aaron Rodgers, a lot of the greats. They didn't play the first year or two. So, but with him, I think you have to give it to him. You have to just build it. And like Peyton Manning, who actually I think he did an interview with him. Right. He had Marvin Harrison. These guys, his first couple of years, he was 1-15 his first year. So I just let him do it. Let him go through it. He's the type of guy where I think if he goes 1-15, it's not going to hurt him. Some guys mentally will never recover from that, but he's so confident. I like him. On paper, they had a great draft. T. Higgins is going to come in. I don't know if Taj Boyd, T. Higgins. I mean, T. Higgins eventually.
Tyler Boyd.
Eventually, he'll come in and be the starter. When if not from day one. But that's 3 good receivers. But on paper, they look like they had a great draft. A couple good linebackers. But it's on paper, just like the Browns did really well on paper the last couple of years, but don't produce. So just got to wait and see. And I mean, I don't know fantasy wise if I would touch anybody.
Yeah, it's a disaster fantasy-wise. Maybe Burrow later, but again, I'm staying away from this entire situation.
Well, he's going to throw the ball, so it'll be interesting to watch. It's more exciting to watch from a football standpoint to see what he does. It's curiosity.
All right, moving on to the Browns here. If Jedrick Wills, what do you think? He's going to definitely help Mayfield here. What? Mayfield's out of excuses now. They've addressed the O-line. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, they needed to. But they didn't just address it with him. They signed another guy in free agency, a good player, good tackle. So I mean, they're all set up. It's the opportunities there. I think Mayfield needs to mature, learn how to sit back in the pocket, and just pick the open man. And we're going to see. I mean, this is it. This is the year, right?
This is the year. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, they're going to be splitting.
Harrison Bryant, he went 4th round. One of the draft's top 2 or 3 tight ends. So he's going to get some ball, but I don't think enough to make an impact.
Yeah, and then again, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb going to be a split field. Be careful there. Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb. This was a big upset for me as a fantasy fan because you got Gallup. I thought Gallup was going to take a step up this year, get all the volume, and they get CeeDee Lamb. Now we've got a disaster. This guy could take the starting job. We never know. He could.
Well, I told you in the pre-draft that I think that they needed another weapon because they're not here to just go 8-8, and you could win the NFC East on 8-8. I mean, they had a great draft. They got one of the top corners, 2nd-tier corners. They had a really good D tackle, another good corner. They got the center they got from Wisconsin in the 4th round was a steal. Right. I mean, I honestly, if they can gel and it all comes down to Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb's an immediate impact from day one. And I think it's great because he doesn't have the pressure. He didn't go to a place, like Jacksonville where there's no receivers. He went to a place where he doesn't have to be the 1 or the 2. He can be the 3. He's gonna succeed in that spot. he's going to succeed in that spot. And I mean, he should succeed in that spot. So I think it's a great pick for them. I think it makes them the team to beat in the NFC East.
Yeah, I like CeeDee Lamb.
And I'm really, I like it.
It's going to be explosive. They're set everywhere. They're locked and loaded. The question
But it takes pressure off Amari Cooper too. And when you have, this is what I told you before, when you have multiple wide receivers on the team that are on that 1 to 2 level, it spreads the field and you can't just double everybody. So there's going to be, if 3 guys that are capable of catching the ball in one-on-one now, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Gallup. So you got guys that will make plays. I mean, it may suck on the fantasy side, which you don't know which week one. If Amari Cooper's doubled every time, I mean, CeeDee Lamb may be it.
You're going to have a lot of volatile weeks here with the Cowboys. This is why I don't trust him. Now, this is great for Dak. Dak, a stud for fantasy football in regards to quarterback. This only helps his case. I'm excited to see this offense in general. I think there's a lot of weapons going to be exciting for reality, but for fantasy, I'm going to stay away from the receivers. Denver Broncos, another situation. 3 great receivers now. You've got, well, at least 2 anyway, with Judy and Sutton there. And then we got Fant here as a receiver as well. Judy, man, I mean, this could be great. This could be great for Drew Lock as well. I'm excited to watch this offense, man. Melvin Gordon out of the backfield. What are your thoughts on this draft? And they got KJ Hamler as well.
KJ Hamler, they say he's like a poor man's Deshaun Jackson. He's about 5'9", suffered from some drops in college, but he's going to be that guy. I don't want to say like Tyreek Hill because that's what everyone's trying to put another Tyreek Hill in there. Right. But he's a guy that's fast. I don't know if he's going to do some kick return and stuff like that, but I think he's going to come in there, and I think he's going to have some games where he might catch a long touchdown. Or, I mean, a lot of times those small guys just never can take the pound and can take it, and, they're out. But, I mean, he's got the speed. Judy, on the other hand, he's going to come in, make an impact from day one. But another like Dallas, the pressure's off him to be the number one. Sutton's the number one, so he's going to be able to come in and make a lot of plays. I mean, that didn't really – Calvin really had that with Julio Jones. It didn't work out as well as we thought. But it'll give him some breathing room to come in there and be productive. So I think he'll be a really good number 2.
Again, I love this for Drew Lock, but again, in regards to wide receivers, who's going to get the ball? Is Judy going to be the number 1? Could he be the number 1?
No, Sutton.
But Drew Lock is so young, he could gravitate and say, well, Judy's my guy. You don't know because we haven't seen that, right?
Yeah, we haven't.
Nobody knows.
And Drew Lock, he had a good few games last year. He still needs to prove himself.
Right.
I like the confidence in him, and I think he can, but he's got the weapons, no excuses now.
All right, this team is really interesting. The Detroit Lions, I love Kenny Golladay. I mean, he's a fantasy stud, and he is the clear-cut wide receiver 1 there. There's no one else. Jones, not that exciting. But here's the thing, right? Kerryon Johnson sucks. I don't care what you say. Can't stay on the field. Hasn't done anything. DeAndre Swift comes in. There's some upside there. But again, now you've got this little bit of a battle here. Kerryon's probably going to get the start. Swift could take over, but I don't know if Detroit makes him the full workhorse running back. That's my concern here. What do you think?
They had a good draft. We got the top corner, which is what they needed. I still think they needed a better receiver. Like you just said, they only have 1 receiver. Teams with 2 receivers, it really spreads the ball around and opens up the field. But I think DeAndre Swift is a huge upgrade. They wouldn't have taken him in the second round if they didn't plan on playing him. Right. Now, hopefully it's sooner rather than later, but I think he takes over that job. He's more versatile. He catches the ball better in the backfield, and I think they're going to try to take some of the pressure off Stafford and open up with DeAndre Swift. He'll get the job sooner or later. He's a better running back than Kerryon Johnson.
He is, but is that O-line strong enough? They got Juwanna Jackson round 3, and they got another offensive lineman, Logan Stenberg, in 4. Is there enough? Is that O-line going to be good enough? Is there good enough offense to help DeAndre run? I mean, he looks pretty versatile. He can catch.
I think it's fine. I think Stafford has to come back healthy. I think that's the key. They don't forget that they drafted a tight end in the top 10 last year. Right. He didn't play as well. Yeah, I mean, how does he look for this year?
I think he takes a step up. I mean, they
need him.
Yeah, especially if they improve the O-line. I think less blocking for him, maybe gets out there, catches some balls. Yeah. Especially, and he was targeted in the red zone. He was targeted quite often, and then Stafford got hurt, and then it got really kind of like uncertain there. But I think if Stafford and him connect, I think Hawkinson takes a step up, and he's value. I think he's a huge value in fantasy for later rounds. You could wait and get a good tight end. Not a good rookie year in regards to fantasy production, but definitely a step up this year. All right, the Packers here. I just heard from the coaching staff. LaFleur says, Rodgers is our guy, but yeah, he's your guy. But why would you draft Jordan Love in the first round, the 26th pick? Whoa. I understand you want to build him for the future, but damn, man, I mean, come on, what's going on? And then A.J. Dillon, you drafted 2 positions that you have 2 good, you've got great players in Aaron Jones. Williams is a good backup, and you have Aaron Rodgers. Then you go and draft, you take your first 2 picks. and you grab, positions that you already have. What's the thought process here?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. Jordan Love, I mean, even if he's the backup for 3 or 4 years on that rookie deal,
right? I
mean, it's a cheap backup quarterback for insurance. But the problem is you could have got another impact player because they are right at that level where they're, getting that first round bye or they're not, but they got bombed by San Francisco. You needed a few more players to really come in and compete, kind of like New Orleans a couple years ago when they really hit a home run in the draft and they came in and then they upped their play. And that's what I would like to see them do. Jordan Love, listen, Lamar Jackson was taken late in the first couple years ago when Flacco was there. But I mean, Flacco didn't look as good when he was there. Lamar took in at the end of the season. Rodgers, you got to see what happens. If he plays, he could come in and throw 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and then all right, he's not going anywhere. Or if he comes in and has a year a little worse than last year, then maybe they trade him next year. I mean, they're thinking of the future. They want a quarterback for 10 years. So they definitely took him to be the quarterback in the first round. A.J. Dillon, he's a great running back. He's about 6'2", 250. He doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield really. But he's had over 800 to between 800 and 900 carries in college. He was used and abused for 3 years in Boston College offense. He already has a lot of wear on him. So he could. They didn't bring him in, to sit him. You don't take a guy like that. He came out as a junior, but he's already has a lot of wear on him. He seems like, But remember, Matt LaFleur was in Tennessee, and he was the offensive coordinator there when they had Derrick Henry. So I think he's going to end up easing him into the offense like that. Aaron Jones is good, but he's not great. But when Aaron Jones got the ball, when he got 19, 20 carries a game, he actually produced, over 100 yards almost every time. He's good. He just gets the ball sometimes only 10, 11 times a game. I think they need more of an offensive identity, and I think if he's going to try to take some of the pressure off Rodgers, he's going to run the ball a lot more.
Fantasy impact here. I love Aaron Rodgers this year. I think he has to take a step up. He's getting a lot of heat. Now he's got some pressure under him, man. He's got this quarterback kind of breathing down his neck potentially, right? You never know. Anything can happen in the NFL.
He's got a few years left on his contract. I mean, they traded up to take him too, I believe. So didn't they? So they traded up to take him. So it's not like he fell to them. So I don't know if they can really you say, oh, he blows up in the preseason. What are they going to do? Trade him for 2 number ones in 2 years? I mean, it's counterproductive because they're ready to compete now.
They need to, yes. Aaron Rodgers needs to win.
I mean, he could have went and kept those picks, and he could have got a T. Higgins or another receiver to help Aaron Rodgers, and that's what everybody expected him to do. So you really can't judge this draft for a couple years to see how Jordan Love is, because there's a lot of teams that didn't like Jordan Love.
Now, here's the good thing. No wide receiver drafted, which means Devontae Adams gets a boost. I love Devontae Adams more now. He's going to get more love this year. And they've got that Lazard there. I call him the Lizard, Alan Lizard.
He's good.
He's good. I think he's going to be the 2 there. I mean, he's the guy that kind of –
yeah, he will. He's an undrafted guy.
Yeah, and then MVS, I don't know what's going on with him. He didn't do much last year. All right, so let's move on to the Texans here. No offensive weapons other than Isaiah Coulter in round 5.
Well, they traded everybody last year for Laramie Tunsil, who they just paid $22 million a year on a 3-year extension. They overpaid for him.
Yeah.
I mean, they got good. They got actually drafted pretty well. They needed some safety, I think, and they got Ross Blacklock in the 2nd round.
Right.
They had some better safeties, I thought, out there, but the pass rush needed help too. I think Watt's not reliable to play every down. They could have went safety. Grant Delpit, I think, would have been a better pick because they need a little help on at safety, which is probably a better player. But I mean, you can't really go wrong with that pick either. But yeah, they're really going. I mean, they like what they have. They already have 4 wide receivers: Randall Cobb,
Fuller,
Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, and Brandon Cooks. They're going with what they have. They think what they have is good enough. I mean, they almost beat Kansas City last year, so they feel like
David Johnson this year. I love David Johnson. Everybody is sleeping on him because here's what the sheep do, Tom. You don't play as much fantasy as me. They basically say, okay, this guy had a crappy year last year, so he's going to have a crappy year this year. They're not looking at the big picture and the opportunity that, hey, the Texans didn't draft another running back. They believe in David Johnson. Last year, Carlos Hyde, who sucks, had over 240-plus attempts and over 1,000 yards rushing, 6 rushing touchdowns, right? So over 1,000 yards rushing, that's Carlos Hyde. Now you got David Johnson who catches the ball. I mean, and he's a beast. He's far more talented than Carlos Hyde. I'm super, super excited about David Johnson this year. And I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's angry, man. I'm telling you. He got his job taken away, so I love David Johnson here.
Yeah, they're happy with their offense. The kid from, the wide receiver they took from Rhode Island's a developmental guy. He's got to improve his route running. He's not ready anyways. But next year, I think Stills and Fuller are done, or their contract's up, I believe. And Cobb's old. I mean, he might not even make it past this year anyways. So I think they're going to try to develop him, sit him this year. He probably won't even be active, and is a guy to keep an eye on for next year. He went for a small school, he wasn't even Division I, so he's a boomer bust type of kid. Be out the league in a year, might not even make it, and see what happens. But they think they're good enough now to compete.
Yeah, I like them. This is a team I'm excited about. Now we got to talk about this. Marlon Mack, years to wow me, and we're not wowed. Marlon Mack, okay, absolutely sucks. I don't care. People are like, yeah, Joe, he rushed over 1,000 yards, blah blah blah. Listen, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. What are your thoughts on these guys from a college perspective? Because I love Taylor. He should start.
I told you Michael Pittman was a guy that can come in and make an impact from day one, a big target, reliable. He's kind of going under the radar from those other guys that got drafted ahead of him, all those juniors. I mean, he's a junior too. There's other guys that came out, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Ruggs. But I think Michael Pittman, T.Y. Hilton, he's aging a little bit, still playing well, gets hurt a little bit. I think Michael Pittman, if not this year, next year, will definitely be an impact. That was a good pick. Jonathan Taylor, I think we talked about that. They have a good foundation, a good offensive line, good defensive line. They got good muscle. They're a tough team. They just needed some more weapons, like we said. And for Phillip Rivers never really had he had some weapons on the outside and actually did have weapons. He just never put it together. But it's going to be his chance here. They took a backup quarterback, Jacob Eason, out of Washington. I'm not too sold on him, but they're going to try to develop him behind. They still got Brissett. Yeah. So see how Rivers does. They got him some help. And I think Jonathan Taylor is going to end up, he can come in and end up winning that job.
Yeah, I want him to fully take over. Marlon Mack, again, just not exciting for fantasy, and I want to see a superstar on the Colts, being a fan of theirs. So I'm excited about this. Moving on to Jacksonville. I like Laviska Shenault. They needed a wide receiver here. They don't have a wide receiver. I don't care what you say about Shark. They needed Laviska. What do you think? Right, immediate impact with him or what?
I mean, by default, he's going to get some playing time. He battled some injuries the last couple of years in college. He didn't put up big numbers, but he's very explosive. So he's a guy to keep an eye on for sure. Right. It's just hard to tell.
They believe Martin Minshew.
Minshew's going to throw the ball there, but I think they're going to have to rely on Fournette to give it to him 20. I mean, that's the way they're going to win. Give it to him 20, 25 times a game. He's their guy. They drafted him top 5 a few years ago. He's going into the final year of his deal. They did not trade him.
Right. It's huge for Fournette. I love Fournette. I just talked to my Jacksonville guy. He's like, man, they're going to work him like a dog this year. He's just going to get worked. He's going to get worked. And he has to show other teams.
Well, more coaches on the hot seat automatically here. They could be out in a few weeks if they go 0-4, 0-6, whatever, 2-5. So I think they're going to have to give it to him. We'll see what Minshew. They stood at 9, took a really good cornerback. I mean, they traded Ramsey. I mean, they just get, they still got Yannick on the team. They seem to get bullied by a lot of their top players sometimes, and I just think they need a clean house eventually. I don't think they're going to play well this year, but I do like Minshew, and I think he can work some magic. We'll see how that is. It's like, I mean, I just think you need to get a new coach after the season if they don't make the playoffs.
I think Houston's the favorite in that division right now, to be honest with you. It's going to be tough.
Houston or Indy?
Indy could make a run too. Indy could make a run. All right, Kansas City Chiefs. There's a lot of talk, a lot of buzz about this guy. We want a realistic scouting kind of perspective on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I want to know what you think of him, because right now I think the upside is there. Small, compact, great vision, pass catching, runs up the middle as well, versatile. And they was first running back off the board here. And again, you've got Damian Williams, who's a pest. I can't stand him. Darwin Thompson's going to be there. It's Darrell Williams. It's annoying there with those guys that sucked for years. And they're going to be pests for guys that could be the starter. Do the Chiefs, in your opinion, want to make him the next Kareem Hunt of a couple of years ago with Clyde Edwards?
Kind of, but I think better than that. I think I told you before that they like Andy Reid had LaShawn McCoy in Philly. Now he's not as good as LaShawn McCoy, I don't think. Yeah. Well, LaShawn McCoy was a second rounder.
Last year.
They're comparing him. I mean, LaShawn McCoy's past his prime, but they're comparing him to Brian Westbrook, who had that catch. Remember, I told you they need to take some of the heat off Mahomes. Remember how I told you Brady would have all those third down backs? I think he's trying to not let Mahomes scramble as much, run as much, and he needs a back who can catch it out of the backfield. So I think he's going to be their top guy, and he's definitely going to, if he can make the transition to the NFL, he's going to produce. He runs the ball well, but he can catch the ball. And I remember we said that's what they need. Out of the backfield, they need somebody that can do that. Right. So I think it's very good that they can do that better. I don't think they want Kareem Hunt. They want someone more explosive, better than him, that can take, not even get 20 yards out of a catch out of the backfield, but just like be there as a safety net for the quarterback, and turn it into a positive gain. Sometimes is all you need. Someone that you can rely on to catch the ball out of the backfield, and I think that's what he can do. So I think he fits that team well, and what Andy Reid's looking for. I think years ago he had like the Anthony Thomas, who never really turned out well. He likes those kind of guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield as their every down backs.
Big question is, will he be good enough to make Damian Williams go away? We want Damian Williams to go away, get lost. That's what
he can. Yeah, he's a better player than him. I think so.
Sure. Yeah.
But they're never a type of team that's, he could get 10 to 12 rushes and 5 catches a game. It's about the touches with a guy like that, not about the rushes. Right. So you want to get him 5 receptions a game, maybe 10 to 15 rushes, something like that. He's not, that's what you got to look for. He's got to get the PT, you got to get the playing time.
The plus side was when McCoy came in, he sucked. He's past his prime, and he's running, does his little jiggle move, and the ball's like a yard away from his body.
6 years ago, he would have fit that offense to a T that he has now.
Now he sucks. But the thing is, when he brought in, he was getting more playing time than Williams when they were both healthy. So that's a good sign.
I don't think he likes Williams. I think he's just there.
Yeah, they were craving that other running back, someone that they don't like Williams. Again, they know Williams wasn't.
And they got who they wanted. They didn't get Taylor. They didn't get, obviously Dobbins doesn't fit that. They didn't get the other guy, Swift. They got who they wanted.
Right.
They had the first choice, So yeah, they're going to give him every opportunity to win that job, and he's a guy that should be a starting running back. Never
a full workhorse. He had a good year in his last year of college. Clyde Edwards, I think it was like 240 attempts, but he was never a guy that was like for years. It wasn't like a Jonathan Taylor that had 2,000 plus.
Well, he came out early.
Yeah.
In college, how many workhorses are there really? They threw the ball a ton there at LSU. So, right. But he got some good games.
Would you say it's a good thing because he's not worn down, right?
Yeah. So, I like him. I think he's going to be good. Make him more fun to watch in Kansas City. Andy Reid spreads the ball around. Some games Tyreek Hill get like 8 catches. Sometimes he'll get 2, and sometimes this guy may get 8 catches. So you just don't know.
All right, let's move on here. Now we've got the Raiders here. Ruggs, boomer bust, man, games. That's what's going to happen with him. See, the thing is, no matter who they get, they could have got Julio Jones and Michael Thomas on their team, but you got Derek Carr throwing the ball, which doesn't excite me for fantasy. This is a good thing for Josh Jacobs because it's going to open things up with him, less stack boxes. He's going to, Ruggs is a burner. What do you think with him? He's going to be the one there.
He's going to put up some big games if he's ready for the NFL. They don't have any receivers. The problem is, you remember a couple years ago, Jordy Nelson had like some huge games. Right. The tight end that they had, was it Jared Cook? No, who's their tight end?
Jimmy Graham?
No, in the Raiders. I forgot his name. But he had some monster games a couple years ago.
Oh, no. Waller was last year.
The guy that had those monster games. But he's going to find guys that has monster games sometimes. And then those guys disappear. He's going to spread the ball around. Whoever's hot gets it. And I think Ruggs is going to be able to get some of those big games. He's going to get some. They're going to try to get him the ball over the middle and open space. So that, he's to use his speed. That's what they're going to try to do for him. He's not going to go over the middle and catch. I'm sorry, not going to go over the middle as a possession receiver and get 10 balls for 90 yards. That kind of receiver. So he might only get like 3 catches, but maybe get 100 yards sometimes. He's that kind of guy, or he may get shut out. They don't really have many options there. They got Tyrell Williams, who they really do like on the outside. And they drafted 2 other wide receivers. However, the guy from Kentucky is going to be a running back over there. He's going to be in the backfield over there. He's going to take the ball, and he's going to get a lot of catches out of the backfield and in the slot. But they drafted him as a running back, not a receiver.
Lynn Bowden Jr. Stated as a wide receiver, but he's like a gadget kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right?
But Gruden's looking. Listen, there's no secret. They're looking to compete with the Chiefs. So are the Broncos. So the Chargers. But
you're going to need a quarterback then. I'm not sold on Carr, man. What has he done?
They got Mariota, who's probably one of the top backups right now. They paid a lot of money for him as a backup. You don't pay someone. I think they paid us like $7 million for him. Maybe they give him a shot. I think Mariota would be good in a good system. I actually like him.
guy that lost the job to Tannehill, you know, again.
Yeah, but that organization, I mean, their coaching staff's not firepower. It's who knows? We got to see. Maybe. But Mariota made the playoffs the year before that. Won a game in the playoffs. I mean, he's not horrible. That's hard to find. So I mean, either way, with the quarterback, I mean, he's still going to throw the ball.
Right.
I don't think he's going to make the best throws, and you're going to be frustrated at times. But I don't know if any of these guys will be enough to be a top impact. But they don't really care. Bryan Edwards is a big target out of South Carolina. I don't know. He's just going to monitor them in camp, see who steps up.
All right, let's move on here to the Chargers. Justin Herbert, man, I mean, the job to get the starting job in LA doesn't seem too hard with Tyrod there. Justin Herbert, when do you see him starting? And then also your thoughts on Joshua Kelly. Because, again, I like Eckler as a PPR guy, but I don't think he's going to be the guy. I think Joshua Kelly could come in. You think Joshua Kelly's going to come in and threaten that RB1?
Yeah, definitely. Eckler's not at every down back. We talked about this the day of the draft. So, I mean, if he comes in, plays well, can do good in pass protection, he'll be splitting time with Eckler. But Eckler might be the every down back in the sense where he splits out to the side, gets as a receiver sometimes he gets the ball, but he's not going to get the ball 20 times a game. That's not what he's built for. So they're going to count on Joshua Kelly coming in. The problem with Herbert is Tyrod Taylor's the starter. He's going to come in as the starter, and they're just going to see how he plays. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyrod Taylor starts the first few games. If they lose them and Herbert looked good, it could be a type of guy that comes in by week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know. But I don't think they're going to label him the starter right away.
Taylor sucks. I've watched him. I mean, he's one of those anticlimactic guys. They're down by like 7 points, 3 minutes left in the game. They got to come back, and he'll go, 3-0.
The problem is their head coach is going into his third season. His first year was decent. Second year was horrible last year. Anthony Lynn, they got a good defense. He's a great coach on that side of the ball. But you're going into your third year. You don't make the playoffs. I mean, come on. Your job's on the line. You're going to go with the veteran a lot of times over the rookie. Because what happens? You start Herbert, you go, 3-13. Then you get fired. New coach comes in.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what you got to look at, too, in that situation. I don't know. Herbert – you got to see how he shows up in practice, how he plays, and training camp.
And you've got Kelly there who's competing with Jackson and Eckler. I mean, how good is Kelly from what you know? Do you know anything?
I think they're trying to get younger. Kelly's not bad. I was never a huge fan of him in college. So
UCLA.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this draft, except Herbert. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to.
Right.
He didn't have a great senior season. Another guy had did he come out as a junior? He had a really good junior season. Didn't have as great of a year, even though they won more last year. He didn't play. He just didn't look the part. He didn't look like a killer out there. He didn't make all the throws. He just didn't look great.
We'll have to see in reality, right? In the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not a big Chargers guy.
Okay, let's move on to the Rams here. Before we do that, tight end you were thinking about for the Las Vegas Raiders was Jared Cook.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just my brain was freezing there. All right, so going back here to the Rams. Now, this could be – I want to get your realistic point of view, your scouting point of view on two players, Cam Akers and Van Jefferson. Wide receiver Van Jefferson, Cam Akers comes in. I'm not sold on Darrell Henderson. Now, if they didn't draft Akers, I'd be like, okay, Henderson may get that shot, could get the opportunity, was a sleeper for me. That's gone to the sideline here. Cam Akers, man, their first pick in the second round, 52nd overall. I am super excited. This could be a plug-and-play running back. What do you think on him? What's his talent like from what you've heard?
I mean, he's good, and they had a horrible team last year at Florida State, so I think he can come in and play. I mean, I like that pick. I think he's going to get the ball there. Yeah. He's going to get it. They're going to go with the young running back, and he's going to fit that offense. And I like that pick.
I'm excited. Fantasy, this is my guy, man. I'm between him and Taylor. The only thing is Mac kind of concerns me, right? Mac and that offense and new quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what concerns me. But Cam, I think he's a plug and play, man. They got rid of Gurley with confidence. We can get rid of Gurley. We got a plan. And maybe Cam was a big fun.
I'm not too sold on Van Jefferson, though. I mean, I think there was better options on the board at that time, and I don't. Listen, you never know. I just don't think he produced. He always underproduced wherever he was in college. So I'm not really a fan of that pick.
Okay, let's move on here. Miami Dolphins. Tua here. When does he get the start? I think Fitzpatrick comes out strong, and then that could delay and prolong the Tua start. I mean, he's still banged up, right?
I mean, they said he was healthy.
Oh, he's good now? Okay.
I mean, you don't draft a guy like that who usually would have been, if he didn't have medical issues, he probably would have been the #1 pick. He was. I mean, Burrow had that crazy year though, but that's even. It's just the medical issues. So if he's healthy, comes in healthy, I don't know. I think that's a tough one. I mean, he could last year. I mean, they gave Fitzpatrick the job. Josh Rosen got the job. Back to Fitzpatrick. It was a mess. I think they do want to win, but the problem is they took an off left tackle at number 18 who's not ready to play either. So I can see, both, Tua sitting a year and learning and then taking it next year. But if they start losing with Fitzpatrick, I can see him. I still think they need a couple more weapons on the outside. They drafted some good quality players. They signed a lot of good quality players. They got sleeper Curtis Weaver out of Boise State, who was going into the year as a potential first-round pick. Stephen Sullivan, the tight end in the 7th round, is one of the other guys in the 7th round that I said that could come in and actually make that team, who I liked. So I just still think they need another wide receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tua sat the first year.
His injuries included, he suffered 5 notable injuries during his 3-year career.
Yeah.
2 as a starter in Bama, broken left index finger, sprained right knees in 2018, dislocated right hip. He's had all these weird things happen.
I mean, it seems like they still got the hype of drafting him of his freshman, when he came in and won the national title. Remember? Yeah. His freshman year, then his sophomore year played well, took the job from Jalen Hurts, who went in the 2nd round this year. I don't know. He's the type of guy I just don't know how he's going to translate to the NFL. So, right. I mean, I think you just have to monitor that position battle in camp. I don't know if it is a battle. I mean, I don't know if I think they're going to put Fitzpatrick as the starter and they're going to ease him in. They don't want to rush him.
That's my guess as well. And they got Austin Jackson to protect them. So,
well, he's not ready. He has some bad tape. There's a reason why he didn't go in the top 10, top 12. He's a junior. He's only 20 years old, youngest player in the draft. I mean, he got crushed by against Iowa in the bowl game against Ebenezer, the guy who I think he fell the 2nd or 3rd round. But, I mean, he has a lot of bad film, but he's got such a high upside, kind of like a Tristan Wirfs right. Who went to the Tampa. But he's not ready to play left tackle in the league. He's probably going to need a year, but they may put him in. And he's going to be the typical boom or bust type of guy. He's going to have a career in the league. It's just going to matter, is it going to be 3, 4, 5 years as a starter below average, or is he going to end? He has the talent to be that Pro Bowl. He's got the quickness. He's got the moves, but there's a lot of personnel people out there that just don't think he's even ready. Should have went back to school. But his potential's up there. So if that's why you take him like that with Tua, maybe you go into next year with that.
I'm not excited about Miami, man. For fantasy, maybe Parker. I hate the running back situation. Don't get me started with that. I mean, who did they just get? They got Breida, did they not?
Yeah.
Breida, Howard. What a disaster, man. I don't
love it. Malcolm Perry out of Navy is a little sleeper in the 7th round. I think he'll make that team.
Yeah.
People love him. But I mean, I wouldn't be excited. I think they have good football players and they'll be better. Probably go 8-8. But they're not going to win anything, but they're going to be better than last year.
That's the whole, as long as they're moving forward, that's the main thing.
Listen, rumors they were trying to trade all their 1st-round picks for Joe Burrow. If that's the case, they can't be that happy with Tua.
All right, we still got a lot of teams to get through here.
Let's go.
Minnesota Vikings, plug and play. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver.
Plug and play. They said the battle is going to go between him and Rigor from Philly, the Eagles. These two guys are going to be compared forever. I think Minnesota, they got rid of Diggs. He replaces Diggs. I think he's a good player. He's going to get the ball. Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball. They got some other good players, Ezra Cleveland, who was a potential 1st rounder.
Right.
They got some James Lynch out of Baylor. I really like the D tackle. I think they got a lot of draft picks, and they're just trying to reload over there. Minnesota is another sleeper team this year in that division. Kirk Cousins played really, really well last year, so let's see if he can follow that up. But Justin Jefferson.
I got Jefferson as one of my top route runners in the notes that I made off the top top wide receivers coming in. Great separation, makes difficult catches. What do you think route running? Is it up there with Judy?
Yeah, he had a really good year. Made some unbelievable catches. Again, That was at LSU. Burrow had all the time. He was playing with the best guy who had the best quarterback season ever. Right. Had a great O-line. So, when you are on a team that was maybe one of the best college teams ever, what about when the quarterback's making throws that aren't as accurate?
Right.
You got to monitor it, but he's in line to have a good rookie season for sure.
I like him. Immediate impact. All right, let's move on here. The Patriots. I'm staying away from this entire situation. Way too many targets to go around.
They had a lot. They had a good draft. They had a lot of football players. Right. They're the best fantasy players, probably the kicker in the 5th round. I mean, Belichick is a genius at finding kickers. Vinatieri, Stephen Gostkowski. And I mean, if it goes in line, I like the kicker.
Right.
How can you not?
Justin Rowasser. I can't even pronounce the name. I'm not even going to try.
Out of Marshall. Yeah, nobody else had him on the board. He went and took him in. The thing with this is Belichick made so many trades, traded out of the first. He traded for most guys that he wanted all these players in the draft. So he just reloaded. He's just got good football players that probably won't make a huge difference. Their tight ends I would monitor. I think the tight ends will get the ball.
Devin Asiasi.
Yeah.
Asiasi. I can't even pronounce these.
He's going to play 2 tight end sets probably a lot, like he did with Hernandez and Gronkowski back in the day.
I mean, he knows what he's doing, right?
He doesn't have many receivers, so he's going to go with the tight ends. He's a lot of times too, and I think he's just going. Yeah, he knows what he's doing. But he got really good football players. No one's sexy, but just good players that'll be there for like 4 or 5 years. He didn't draft much of these players to play this year. He drafts for them to be on the team and make an impact for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So, right. I mean, it's a great draft, but fantasy-wise, I mean, I think that kicker is one I would put up the top of your list.
All right. Cesar Ruiz, the center.
Great player. Michigan. Probably going to move to guard.
He's on the Saints now. This would definitely help Kamara. Right? He's going to help Kamara.
Yeah, they had 4 draft picks. They went with Cesar Ruiz. I think they're going to move him to guard, I believe. They got Zach Bowen, Wisconsin. Adam Troutman, tight end. People are all high on him. He's like, people think he's always going to be a sleeper, a really good pick in this draft, possibly. New Orleans, listen, when you only have 4 draft picks, you take a guard on one. What do? You think you're ready to – they think they have a Super Bowl team right there. Drew Brees has got another year or 2 left in him, possibly, maybe another one. But they think they're ready to compete as is.
What's the deal? Taysom Hill, what, a 2-year, $21 million? Are you kidding me?
And they signed Jameis Winston.
What's going on here? Why would you even pay Hill?
Because they're trying to use him as a weapon.
Listen, back.
Yeah, they like him.
I don't see it, man. I mean, look at Henry. Henry got 10.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Being one of the best.
He's 30 years old too.
Like the thing is, like I said, Derrick Henry, top running back in the NFL, gets $10 million, doesn't get a contract, and Taysom Hill, who's done nothing, gets $21 million. Are you kidding? As a backup?
And he was actually already under contract this year for like $3 million or something like that. $4 million, I think.
Crazy.
So it was really $16 million to play one more year after this year. It's a horrible deal. Listen, I'm not saying I like the guy. I think he's a great but as far as a business move, I don't think you waste the cap room on that. They got Jameis Winston. I think that's a good pick because if anyone can get the talent out of him, it'll be Sean Payton in a couple years. He learns from him kind of what Bridgewater did, calm him down a little bit. Arians just was way too much like rocket fire with him, like a rocket man. And I just personally think that's a good fit for Jameis Winston. He thought he was going to get a big deal, 16, 18 million a year, but he went less to take a backup and to learn. And hopefully this helps him. He's still young. I think he's like 24. He's still a young kid that has potential. So
I read an interesting stat. Jameis Winston has completed 10 career passes to the Saints. Taysom Hill has completed 7.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, I mean, listen, Drew Brees got hurt last year. He's getting old. Let me tell you something. When these quarterbacks get older, all of a sudden it just goes. They just lose it.
Yeah.
So you don't know. I mean, it could be this year for him. It could be next year. Like, remember Peyton Manning? All of a sudden he just lost it. Brett Favre, they just lose it, and they're just not the same. So I think they want to be ready. And they obviously by signing Winston, they don't believe Hill is ready to come in and be the starter.
All right, let's move on here. Andrew Thomas, love this pick for the Giants. They definitely beef up the O-line here. They also got Matt Burton III. They got a great
good pick, developmental pick. I like him. He's got the chance to be a starter in this league.
Who's this?
Matt Pert.
Yeah. McKinney at safety, but no wide receiver, dude. What are they going to believe in Sterling Shepard?
Listen, I told you this before. They have too many holes to fill. They could have traded. So the problem is, if somebody wanted to trade up to get Tua and I was the Giants, I would have traded back. I would have traded back even further. They need players. I would have traded back. If Miami really wanted that 3 pick, I would have took Miami's 5th and their 18th. And I would have took Austin Jackson at 18 or a CD Lamb at 18, Justin Jefferson at 18, and another lineman at 5 or something. I think they were better off. You're right. They have no receivers, but you can't go wrong. I mean, Andrew Thomas, some teams didn't like him a lot. He's a good player. I don't know if he can be great. Xavier McKinney is a good safety. They just have too many holes to fill. They could have, I would have liked to see him trade back and turn that into a couple really good players, but and a wide receiver, like I told you. But hey, they got some good players. I just think they have a lot of holes on that team. They look horrible last year.
For sure. Saquon, it can only help Saquon, right, with the O-line.
Yeah, they needed a receiver, though. I mean, it's kind of a shame.
Okay, let's move on here. Got a couple more.
Jets.
I think they made the right moves with the first.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I would have flip-flopped it, and I would have rather went CD Lamb or Judy at 11, and I would have rather went like an Ezra Cleveland or get the guy Jones from Houston in the third round, second or third round. I think that would have been better because I don't think Mims is as good as those other two guys, and Becton is going to be a gamble. I mean, a lot of times he's huge, and he didn't really fit the character that Joe Douglas was looking for. I think they reached to find a franchise left tackle at that pick. They liked him over Tristan Wirfs, though. I'll tell you that because they could have had him. But I think it was a gamble, but they're desperate for a left tackle. They signed George Fant for a lot of money. They're moving him to the right tackle, going to slide Becton in. They had a lot of high hopes for him. And Joe Douglas usually craving high character guys, all this other stuff. This guy's failed drug tests. I don't know. Said it was a one-time incident. Probably not. One time he got caught. I mean, you love it. It looks good on paper. I would have went the other way if I was them. Because I think they could have found a solid lineman in the second, third round. But who knows? Maybe Becton becomes the best offensive tackle in this draft.
Right. They went Becton and they went Mims and two guys, free guys.
Yeah, I don't. Mims is might probably start there by default, right? I mean, Mims is a good player. He could have went in the first round. Some teams looked at him. I'm sorry, like the end of the first round, or even like it's just tough in that area. So the rest of the draft was okay for them. They got James Morgan to be their backup out of Florida International. They love him. They say, who knows, whatever. Sam Donnelly was hurt last year. They had no backup, no third string. It was horrible last year when he was out. I mean, but I think this year, I don't think they'll play that well. I mean, they were still 7-9 last year. Don't forget that. They actually have some good foundational pieces there. But I think they really need a new, if they don't play this well, he'll fire the coach because it's not his hire.
Denzel Mims, possible immediate fantasy impact by default. Because
by default,
he's got to play.
Yes.
All right. Jalen Rigor, first pick, 21st overall here, Philadelphia Eagles, and then Jalen Hurts. They must be listening to the Counselor podcast because I don't like Carson Wentz. What is going on? Why Jalen Hurts? You just paid $1 billion to Carson Wentz.
Like I told you, drafting a backup quarterback in the second round is smart, especially with Wentz's injury history.
Right.
However, I'm not a huge fan of Hurts. I don't know. Maybe they are. I'm not a scout. But what I will tell you is that they said they plan on using Hurts in other situations. Maybe that old Philly special they had with Foles. Maybe like Taysom Hill. I think they compared him to Taysom Hill, which I don't think is fair to the – I mean, you got to do what you want, what the coach wants, but I don't think the kid wants to sit there and run gimmick plays. But I think they're going to use him to throw him in the lineup with Wentz.
I don't like this. I don't like quarterback by committee BS.
But I mean, I think I don't think they have a good football team. They've been getting worse and worse every single year. Jalen Rigor, I wouldn't have went there with that pick. I definitely wouldn't have, but I think I would have rather went T. Higgins. He's got Alshon Jeffrey. Now he's got some speed on the outside, so maybe, but I don't think Jeffrey's going to be there much longer. I would have rather went in a different direction. They have 14 wide receivers on their roster now, and they don't have that many good ones. So
that's crazy.
I mean, Jalen Hurts. I mean, I would have rather went, and I think they needed a couple wide receivers. That division's wide open. Dallas is the favorite. I know they made the playoffs last year. Didn't they? Philly made the playoffs, but
and Carson Wentz got hurt and he couldn't even play.
But he always gets hurt, so you can't argue with getting a backup quarterback. I think that's too high for Jalen Hurts to get drafted. I'm not a huge fan. He's always bombed in the big games. He played in Oklahoma with a big offense, a spread offense. So, and then he was in Alabama before that with a great team. He just, but I can't blame someone for taking a backup quarterback, especially when your guy gets hurt every year.
Yeah, you can't trust Carson Wentz. I would have done the same thing. All right, I'm excited about the Steelers. The Steelers just about better than anybody else. Chase Claypool, is he the real?
Yeah, I like him. I think they don't have anybody to fit that mold. He ran fast. He's 6'4". He's going to come in, and eventually in his rookie year, he should make an impact. Smart guy, good character. They got a steal with him. I think he was a first-round talent. I think any other year he would have went in the middle of the first round. So many receivers this year. He's good. Ben Roethlisberger loves the big guy. Yeah, he's going to end. Well, honestly, it's funny with Juju Smith. Juju Smith played, huh? I
like Deontay a lot.
Yeah, but I think Juju is better at a number 2. He can't handle the double coverage. I think they're going to get this guy out there though, and they're going to throw him the ball deep. He likes the big receiver. I think that's a really good pick.
So you think so where does this guy, do you think he's better than Deontay Johnson?
Oh yeah, I think so.
so he could be a wide receiver 1 here. You're thinking
eventually. I don't think right away they're going to put him there. But you got to remember, Juju plays better in the slot. He doesn't play as good on the outside,
right?
Or he doesn't play as good as the number 1. He's got to play the slot, and I think they're going to put Claypool on the outside. I don't know how ready he'll be week 1, but eventually he's going to earn that job. Then Johnson, and I think it's going to be a good offense. Yeah, I think that's what they need. They didn't draft. They got a running back in the 4th as well.
So I want to quote you here. Claypool, the real deal.
I like him, yeah.
Better than Pittman from the Colts. What do you think? Michael Pittman. Colts.
I like Claypool better, but I think he's got some more big playability.
So both those guys plug and play.
Both those guys are pretty close and pretty good and pretty equal. Yeah.
So looking at this, Jefferson, Rigor, Pittman, and Claypool, all plug and play guys right off the hop.
Well, I mean, Rigor I'm not as high on, but he's going to by default.
There's no one else there to throw the ball to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
All right, 49ers. I'm not crazy about Brandon Ayuk. Are you crazy about him? Debo's still the one there, I think. I think they spread the ball around. Shanahan, like I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, he had almost 1,200 yards last year. He's a good player. I just don't. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be tough in San Francisco. They went Kinlaw first to replace Buckner, who they traded to the Colts.
Right.
It's a solid pick. Listen, you can't argue with that pick. I would have rather reversed it and taken top D tackle at 25 and taken like CD Lee. I think Garoppolo really needs a guy that he can lock into, and that's going to be a possession receiver.
Right.
Like, even like an old school Pierre Garçon, someone he can just count on for the third down catch. He doesn't have that. Well, he has Kittle. Don't get me wrong, but you can't always have a tight end be that guy. And Kittle's unbelievable. Kittle's really his go-to guy, but I really think let's see, maybe Ayuk can be that guy. I don't know. But with Kinlaw, they got a steal. He was supposed to go top 10, so he fell a little bit in the draft for some other reasons before. So I don't know. You're right. He spreads the ball around. Maybe they put Deebo Samuel into that role. But I think he, like how Shanahan had Julio Jones that year in Atlanta, he needs a guy that he can just trust and count on. And you need to build that rapport. You need that guy.
Right.
And maybe this guy can be it, but I don't know. I'm not sold right now. Juwanna Jennings in the 2nd round, people like that pick. That guy fell for some reasons. They told me he fell a lot for some, I don't know if it's off the field or medical, whatever it was. Right. But he's a guy who could make that team and be like have a couple good games.
All right, Seahawks here. Nothing fantasy special. DJ.
No, just very good defensive players. They got a couple top defensive players their first 2 picks.
And Damian Lewis at guard in the 3rd round.
Yeah, not much to talk about here. Just their first 2 picks, they headed out the park. They're going to contribute to that defense, and it is what it is.
Let's move on because there's nothing exciting. Carson's going to be the guy still if he stays healthy, right?
Yeah.
It's Carson. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone's saying a steal at 113. Tristan Wirfs. He could have gone. I thought he was going to the Giants.
You got to be careful. His combine workout was good, so that was a lot of hype. Tristan Wirfs is the type of guy that he, it's hard because he had that. He's a freak athletically, but that doesn't translate to the field. He had a very good year. People were saying 04. They were hyping him up into the top 5 because of his combine workout and his athleticism, how fast he ran the 40. Some people in the NFL think he's going to be as good as he is now. Some people think he has a higher ceiling, but they don't know if he can reach it. So that's why he fell a little bit. The other guys were safer picks to have more of a, they can develop into better players. But worst case, he's going to probably play in the league for 5, 8 years and be an average player. Some teams don't think he has better chance to be he's just going to be a good left tackle for 7 or 8 years, but not that Pro Bowl guy. They think Andrew Thomas has more potential. Becton has more potential to be like a foundational all-pro type of guy. So you can't just, that's an example of combine hype and media not knowing what they're talking about. I told you a lot of people in the media watch the combine. Right. Guy runs fast. They don't know what they're talking about. So still a good pick. They needed help there. And at 13, you get a good offensive tackle that can play left side. And, you get the running back from Vanderbilt at number 76.
So who takes the job? Is it Rojo or Vaughn? Rojo gets a start, and then Vaughn could steal it, right? Keyshawn Vaughn? What do you think?
I don't know if he's going to steal it. I think he's going to – like I said, Brady's going to go to who's open. It's going to go to who's hot. And, I don't know what's going to happen there. There was an Arians in the Cardinals when he had David Johnson.
Yep.
So maybe he sees a little bit of him in him to come in and take the job. I don't think they love Ronald Jones.
The thing is, Peyton Barber he sucked. He's friggin' brutal, that guy. But
they're looking for an upgrade. They're looking for an upgrade for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and then Ronald Jones, very anticlimactic. He was a second-round pick, didn't do much.
But I like Tyler Johnson. I think he's phenomenal. I think their receiver room is full, but I think that guy's a stud. I mean, any other year, he had a really good year, 1,300 yards last year, averaged 15 yards, a reception, 13 touchdowns. Any other year, he would have been a second-round pick. I think that guy's going to be good over there eventually.
They're loaded, man. This is Super Bowl.
I like Tyler Johnson. I think that's a really good pick. You can quote me on that. Hey, who knows? I could be wrong, but I think that guy's the man. He was supposed to be really good coming to the season. He had a good year. I don't know what he ran in the 40 off the top of my head. Some things, might not have turned out well for him in the post, after the season. But he's 6'2", 205, big body. He's going to end up being a really good player.
This is way off topic. We're going to wrap this up. We still got the Titans and the Washington. Have you heard of a guy named Jared Pinkney? He's a tight end, Falcons.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
And
I don't know much about him. No, not really.
Your season was full of highlights. Apparently, I think he's going to the Falcons. I heard he's got a lot of upside, but we'll have to see. There's so many new guys coming in. We don't know much,
Yeah.
Yeah, Pinkney, guys. Keep your ear out for him. All right, anyway, I just thought I'd ask you. Tennessee Titans here. Isaiah Wilson tackle. Darrynton Evans. I mean,
listen, they're banking on what they did last year. Yeah. They lost Jack Conklin in free agency, I think, to the Browns. They signed Kelly, though, who's supposed to be a swing tackle and guard. They re-signed him on their team. So either Isaiah Wilson's going to step in at right tackle, or they're going to have the guy that was the backup last year. So they like Isaiah Wilson to be a run blocker. They're just, they got a corner. They got a running back in the third round to complement Henry. They didn't do anything to improve their roster at all. They're banking on what they had last year and just reinforcing it. I still think, honestly, they were 9-7 last year. They were one game away from out of the playoffs. I just don't think they're going to be as good next year. They have a really good team, a good defense, and the foundation's good, kind of like Indianapolis. But I think I don't know. I think they were further away from the Super Bowl than they thought, even though they went to the AFC title game and were up on the Chiefs. Right. I think they got a little lucky going to the AFC title game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Tannehill, the question is he the guy to get it done?
They're a good playoff team because they can run the ball and do that. No, I mean, I don't think so. No, not at all.
No, not much fantasy impact here. They got Henry a backup. Darrynton Evans.
Previews, we'll talk about them more, but they're not up there.
All right, they got a backup for Henry. They needed a Dion Lewis gone. Darrynton Evans just there to just to fill a spot. All right, Washington Redskins here. Whoa. They went Chase Young, and then Antonio Gibson, running back. I mean, what a disaster of a running back. They've got Peterson there. They've got Geis. They've got Bryce Love. You've got Bryce Love, man. What do you need Antonio Gibson for? What are these guys doing? There's 100 running backs.
And the funny thing is, I like Gibson. I think he's going to be a good player. Gibson's also a receiver, though. He had 38 receptions, 738 yards. He played more receiver last year, so I think they're going to use him as more receiver. He only had 33 rushes for 369 yards last year, 11 yards a carry. I think he's more of a slot guy and I don't want to say a third down back, a gimmicky. He's going to be more receiver, I would say. I like their draft. Chase Young, best player in the draft. Antonio Gibson, I like him. I mean, I think they're going to play him at receiver more and in the slot. That's what I think. Give him some reverses, some other carries out of the backfield, wildcat, whatever. I like Antonio Gandy Golden out of Liberty. I think he's going to come in and play well as well. I like their offensive tackle. Sadiq Charles had some character issues. Probably should have went in the second round. He's got a second round talent. He's going to be a good player. They got some good players. I still think, I don't know about the quarterback situation to go with McLaren. Antonio Gandy Golden's a good wide receiver. But like I said, Antonio Gibson, I think, is a good player. Right. But like you said, I think they're going to use a more receiver, and they're going to bring Peterson, Geis. I mean, listen, they got new coaches. Geis could be gone for all we know. Right. New coaches come in, they get rid of old players. So Geis never really performed as much as he should have.
Nothing.
But I like the players they drafted in the top 5 rounds.
They need improvements. If there's any team that needs improvements, the Redskins.
And they need good football players. So I like the pick for the kid from Memphis. But like you said, where does he fit in? I think it's more in the slot and more at receiver, but who knows? You never know.
Wow. Great insight, Tom. That's a lot to cover, man.
Yeah.
We're going for over an hour here. We covered every team, talk about fantasy impact. I mean, I got to sit here and lay this up for 16 rounds because there's a lot of information. And it just seems more complicated this year. All these wide receivers coming in, a lot of them could be immediate impacts. We don't see this too often, do we, where these guys come in. You know, you don't take wide receivers too serious. And the running backs that came in, they're kind of in committees, right? So it's a lot of like up in the air stuff for fantasy football 2020, but you came in here and you gave us a lot of insight. We appreciate that.
No problem.
So yeah, Tom, we're going to be doing shows every week, man. Make sure you guys subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and leave your fantasy questions below. Tom, man, that's a lot of content. So overall, good draft. Did you enjoy the virtual draft?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I followed it more online.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was a long weekend, so it was good.
All right, man. Thanks for being on, guys.
All right.
A ton of content here for you guys. Make sure you subscribe and 60-round draft solution. Head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com and get it. And I got to sit down, and it's available for pre-order now, but I got to get there and lay it all out. Thanks, Tom, for being here, guys, and we are out. Thanks.